Vamos a compartir ahora una entrevista con Ha-Joon Chang, el padre fundador de los economistas del desarrollo industrial. Este surcoreano, catedrático, profesor, él escribió hace 25 años Patear la escalera, un libro que en estos 25 años se acaba de reeditar. Fue escuela para muchos economistas que, argumentaban los países ricos, los países centrales, hicieron sus esfuerzos para industrializarse y cuando los periféricos como el nuestro intentaron hacerlo, dijeron que no, que ya no convenía, que ahora era el libre comercio la llave para alcanzar el desarrollo. Bueno, un poquito de humor, Nico, ¿arrancamos con eso? Bueno, cerramos con humor, vamos con el reportaje con Ha-Joon Chang, exclusivo para la ley de la selva.
Professor, you came to Argentina several times. You know about our economy and about its propension to stop and go crisis and the conflict between our raw materials and primary sectors and our industry. President Milei has a clear view against manufacturing and has said plenty of times that we need cheap goods from other countries and we need to export to have the dollars to pay for those goods. How do you evaluate that growth model now in 2026, and how do you think we can use our natural resources, our minerals and our oil and gas to have good employment for people here in Argentina?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I think this idea that it doesn't matter what you export. I mean, in the 1980s, the critics of industrial policy in the United States said that it doesn't matter whether you export microchips or potato chips as far as you make more money. Yeah, I mean, technically correct, but the trouble is that the potential demand for primary commodities is much smaller than the potential demand for manufactured products. Because there's a limit to how much food we can eat and how much minerals we need. But when the human ingenuity leads to invention of products, whether they are the computers, mobile phones, or the whatever, the demand for those goods can grow exponentially. So this is why countries that have relied on natural resources have failed to become rich in a sustainable way. I mean, they want okay, I mean, if you are Qatar with the 80,000 people, with the huge amount of natural gas, maybe you can do it. But otherwise, why was Argentina 11 times richer than South Korea in 1960? South Korea's per capita income at the time was $100. Argentina's was $1,100. Yeah, 11 times. Yeah, why is it now a country with only 1/3 of South Korean income? Because you were very rich, mainly on the basis of exporting beef and wheat. We had no natural resource to export, apart from a little bit of fish and the rice. We are very, very poor, but we have become rich by becoming good at producing cars and steel and semiconductors and ships and so on. Yeah. So this is a well-established historical pattern. Yeah, I think it's very dangerous to think that you can do away with manufacturing. And yes, I mean, I accept that a lot of manufacturing in Argentina in the past was not very efficient and so on. But the solution to that problem should be to make it efficient rather than scrap it, because what comes in the place of the destroyed manufacturing sector is soybeans and beef. Yeah, I mean there only so much the productivity increase that you can achieve with those natural products, whereas the productivity in things like the electronics and so on have increased literally thousands of times, yeah, in the last few decades. Yeah.
Last time you came here with prominent figures in the political local landscape, like former President Christina Kirchner, Governor Axel Kicillof, who is the main opposition runner for president in next elections. Should the opposition take the industrial development, the manufacturing sector development as a flag, as a campaign proposal? How should they do that? Especially when the government says that local manufacturing is synonym of high prices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, in the short run, of course, but the problem is that for a relatively backward economy like Argentina, without providing some kind of protection to inefficient manufacturers in the beginning, you are never going to grow the efficient industry. Yeah? I mean, for example, when South Korea first started producing its own car in 1976, there were three companies. The largest one was called Hyundai, or Hyundai, as the non-Koreans tend to say. In that year, the largest company, Hyundai, which is now the third largest company in the world after Toyota and Volkswagen, produced 10,000 cars. Yeah? In the same year, Ford produced 1.9 million cars, and General Motors produced 4.8 million cars. Yeah? So if South Korea had free trade in cars from the beginning, because of course at the time American cars were 20 times better than Korean cars, yeah, we will never have had the auto industry. Yeah? The most important thing is, however, to have a clear strategy as to what is going to be the industry that feeds Argentinians in the next 30 years. Yeah. Okay, yeah, some oil, of course, the beef, you should export more beef to the rest of the world, because you have the best beef in the world, and not many people know it. Yeah, export whatever you can, but most importantly, you have to have a plan to develop industries of the future. Yeah. The problem with the past, especially Peronista, industrial policy was that the ambition was not enough. The ambition was, we produce things that are good enough for us. Yeah, we have no ambition to beat the Koreans or the Chinese or the Americans in their own market. Yeah, yeah. So that you kind of accept mediocre result. Yeah, and that was the problem, not the fact that you try to develop manufacturing. Yeah, you need to develop internationally competitive manufacturing that can earn you a lot of foreign exchanges. Yeah, and that requires long-term strategy, very strict policy to push the domestic firms to invest in raising productivity. Yeah, government providing necessary inputs that individual companies cannot provide, like infrastructure and science and education. Unfortunately, your current president has cut spending on all of this. Yeah, and you need this long-term ambition, the ambitious strategy. I mean, there's nothing inherently impossible for Argentina to become the best sort of, I don't know, artificial intelligence or the nuclear reactors or whatever. Yeah.
But even if Milei wasn't there, and take how Western developing countries have been through the last years. Can democracy make that plan and make that strict industrial policies work? I mean, in Korea, it was a dictatorship. Which
but I would say that that red herring. I mean, talking about Korean, Taiwan having been military dictatorships, which they were. I mean, I for the first 26 years of my life, 24 years of my life, I lived under a military dictatorship. Yeah, 2 presidents. Yeah. But you have to also remember that there are other countries which were totally democratic, which used very similar industrial policies to similar effects. Yeah, Japan between the 1950s and 80s. Yeah, France in the 50s to the 70s. Yeah, Norway, Finland. So what is necessary, of course, is that you need some kind of national consensus to have this long term.
Bueno, consensos a largo plazo, algo que en Argentina nos resulta bastante esquivo.